I'm still talking to the leader of the Reform Party, Richard Tice. We've just been dealing with Europe. We're going to go on to climate change, which seems to batter us around the head from all angles every single day. Welcome back, Richard.
Hi there, Kevin. I mean, this is utterly extraordinary in that we've got an energy crisis, that is for sure, totally because this government has mismanaged our energy policy for the last decade or so. And people are seeing their bills already just because of that going through the roof, Kevin. I mean, Just through the roof. Literally by the week, letters are landing on your doorstep. Energy companies are going bust by the day. Another couple have gone literally today. And so people suddenly, their fixed price deals they thought they had lined up for a couple of years, that disappears overnight. And this is a big issue. And we're not even in the foothills of the madness of the costs from the delusional net zero policies that I call, Kevin, I've coined it, it's not net zero, it's net stupid.
It's Boris is lying to us. It's flat out not true that green energy will make our bills cheaper, which is what he says they will. In fact, Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, is talking about levying another £150 a year on our fuel bills to pay for Boris's green fantasy. Now, today, in the Times today, someone called Emma Howard Boyd, she's in charge of our environment agency. She's a government official. She says it's time to adapt or die, and that climate change, global warming, caused the flooding in Germany in the summer. There's no evidence to suggest that, but here's a government official taking it upon herself to say this. And then she's also saying that we have to adapt, we have to put up flood barriers, or it will happen to us, and that the COP26 summit in Glasgow in November next month is absolutely vital to the future of the Earth because climate change is such an emergency. This comes on the same day that China announces, by the way, China has 1,082 coal-fueled power stations. It is currently building 185 more. Today it announced that because its people were having energy problems, it is going to build a whole load more new coal-fueled power stations. It is also going to initiate a massive program of exploration for oil and gas. It seems unlikely that China will even go to COP26. But even if it does, here we are saying, oh, little Britain producing 1% of the world's population. Look how much we're doing to save it. Listen to all of our government officials following the orthodoxy of climate change being an emergency. Nothing we can do can change anything. China are doing absolutely nothing, and China are currently producing 28% of the world's pollution, and it's going to get a lot worse. COP26 is an absolute waste of time unless we get China to attend and China to concede they'll do anything about this.
Well, let's be clear. The lady you referred to from the Environment Agency, the advice she's given is just plain wrong and contrary to what is being talked about in the latest IPCC report just a few weeks ago. I don't know where she's got her data from, but it is just plain wrong. She's clearly, in my view, just part of this deliberate scaremongering campaign. Look, the reality is, we all care about the environment. We all want cleaner air in our cities, but we need to do that in a smart, strategic, affordable way, Kevin. We need to invest in a variety of sensible technologies like nuclear, like tidal, but we need also to use literally the pot of gold we've got under our feet. It's called shale gas.
Shale gas, yeah.
And Kevin, it's only 4 years ago that this socialist government, in their manifesto, promised to create a whole industry of shale gas. And let me just remind everybody, in America, they have shale gas. They extract it safely. And their gas prices have fallen. They're literally about a quarter to a fifth of our gas prices.
And they're selling it, Richard. They're selling it as well because they've got 120 years worth of cheap fuel for their people, and they're selling it around the world. We could do this, but we bowed to the eco nuts, didn't we, and closed it all down.
We've got over 50 years worth of cheap, safely accessible golden gas under our feet. And this foolish government, the first sight of a few eco-bullies, have run cowardly for the hills. The Chinese are playing a very, very clever game. They're sort of saying they might come, and yes, they need to be involved, but they're sort of making non-legally binding commitments that they'll reduce their emissions. They won't at all. What they will do is very cleverly let the rest of the Western world enter into legally binding commitments to virtue signal and hair shirt ourselves, and then the Chinese will renege because they're good at that. That's what they do. And therefore, we'll end up, unless we change course, we'll end up with the highest energy costs across the world, certainly across Europe, and we'll be sending hundreds of thousands of jobs. Guess where? China. We'll be sending billions of pounds. Guess where, Kevin? China.
It's insanity. It's insanity.
It's utter insanity. And the people of this country need to wake up and realise what this government, the way they've strategically exposed us to vulnerability, to overseas, to importing energy, when a decade ago we were exporting it. We're now exposed to Putin and dodgy French connectors.
It really is ridiculous. I've got a text here from someone that seems to know what he's talking about. I don't know the veracity of it, but it sounds good to me. There's a guy called John Presley. He's from Burnham-on-Sea, Richard. I think you'll be interested in this. He said, Kevin, throughout history, Germany's rivers have flooded, and it was made worse by an EU directive that outlawed dredging, and building on floodplains didn't help. That is what floodplains are there for. Such typical naivety from the gormless EU. So that, according to John, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. That's the reason Germany suffered such catastrophic flooding, not, as our Environment Agency chief says, climate change. This is a government official. This is a government official just saying it's all down to climate change.
No, it's deliberately alarmist language. It's completely wrong. And I suspect that the person who sent that message, he may well be correct. I mean, we are guilty here in the UK of foolishly building on floodplains, and there are consequences to that. But let's be clear, Kevin. I've read this IPCC report. I know you might think I'm a bit sad because most people haven't. But I did read it, and I got to an extraordinary clause where it said, even if we all went to net zero in 2050, literally all of us, it would make no difference to sea level changes and sea level rises for over 200 years. So at which point I'm saying, hang on, folks, in which case, why are we bothering? Why don't we spend a bit of cash building up some sea level defences? And the reality is, if the sea level does rise, and it may rise by a few centimetres over the next 40, 50, 70 years, if it rises a bit, then we'll adapt. We'll build some sea level defences. That's what we do. We're not going to just sit there and say, oh, goodness me, the water's coming in, it's lapping over my head, I'm going to drown. We're going to respond and we're going to react. It's just this alarmist language. I think, frankly, it's just childish, and I don't think the British people will fall for it for much longer.
Well, that's because it's costing us money now, Richard. Our bills, our energy bills are rocketing. We've also got a terrible shortage of energy. We've got rid of our gas storage plants because that's not renewable. Therefore, we have very little backup when the wind turbines and the solar panels go wrong, and they obviously often do because it's not always windy and it's hardly ever sunny. So there are clear problems with Boris's green energy fantasy. We continue like this, and we're going to have this COP26 conflab, which effectively, Richard, I think is going to amount to a bunch of Western countries virtue signalling how worried they are about green issues, where, as we just said, China, Russia, India, Brazil, even Australia, by the way, they're a hell of a coal fuel polluter. These countries are doing nothing to help the environment. So what is the point of COP26? It's not going to achieve anything.
Oh, but come on, Kevin. No, I mean, be serious. It's wonderful. There's 25,000 lovely people. They're all going to accumulate in Glasgow. They're going to enjoy wonderful Scottish whiskey. And many of them are going to fly there in private jets. And they'll all chat around. And you know what will happen at the end of it. There'll be a wonderful self-congratulatory statement. saying that, we've all entered into binding commitments. But when you study the small print, you'll find that probably it's only a few foolish countries like the United Kingdom that's made it legally binding, and the rest of them will have carve-outs and cop-outs and such like to ensure that actually they just go home and quietly carry on as they are. And I think it's potentially really, really serious. And you know who suffers the most, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the real scandal. It's the least well off, the lowest paid, who enter into far greater energy poverty, are forced into it. Most people don't realise we're already paying 150 quid per household, plus.
For the green levy, and that's going to go up by another 150 apparently.
Correct. And where's most of that levy going? It's going to overseas private equity groups and Chinese investors who own all the wind farms and other public utilities.
And here's a nice mad factory. I'm sure you're aware of it, but in Yorkshire there was a power station. It's called Drax, and it used to be coal fueled. It was a gas power station. And
yes.
It couldn't carry on being a gas power station because, according to the government, you cannot classify gas as a renewable energy source. So they had to change it to a wood-burning power station. So it now burns loads and loads of wood and is the single biggest emitter of carbon emissions in this entire country. Richard, we are in the grips of a kind of green madness, aren't we?
And it's worse than that. I do know about Drax. So Drax is being paid almost £1 billion a year, Kevin, in subsidy by all of us in order to import wood pellets from trees, thousands of acres of trees that are chopped down in Virginia. They're transported across the Atlantic Ocean. And guess what, Kevin? They don't take into account all of the CO2 from the fuel that's used to ship them over. And then they don't count in their audit calculations the CO2 that is emitted when these pellets are burnt. So the whole thing is a con, it's a scam, it's a rip-off, and it's utterly outrageous. And of course, the people who benefit are the people who own Drax, and the losers are you and I, all your listeners, your viewers, and 67 other million citizens around the United Kingdom.
Yeah, not to mention the environment. It's very harmful to the environment. It's absolutely mad, all of this, Richard. Listen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I look forward to your show on Talk Radio on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Richard Tice there, excellent Talk Radio presenter and the leader of the Reform UK Party. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and this is Talk Radio.